Okay. Hello, Jace. Thank you for running for office and for seeking the Riveters Collective endorsement. We're conducting this interview on the traditional territory of the Nooksack tribe and Lummi Nation. This interview is being recorded to be used in our endorsement decision and also may be shared publicly. Your screen name will be on the recording, so if you want to change it at all, feel free. The plan is we have 5 questions for you tonight, approximately 3 to 4 minute answers, and then hopefully that'll leave us a little space at the end in case you have any questions for us. To begin with, how would you prefer to be addressed tonight?
Jace is great, and he or they pronouns are excellent.
Okay, great, thank you. We're going to just quickly introduce the committee members that are here tonight. I'm going to go ahead and start with Suzanne.
I too am having trouble with Zoom. Hi, Jace. Nice to see you. Thanks for running. My name is Suzanne, and I'd like to introduce you to Lychee.
Thanks, Suzanne. Hello, Jace. My name is Lychee Leong. Lychee is my first name, and I apologize for being off camera. I don't have one on this device. I'll hand things over to Beth.
Thanks, Lychee. Hi, Jace. I'm Beth. Nice to see you. Thanks for running for office. And I'll hand it, is that it? Candice, I'll hand it over to Candice.
Hey, Jace. I'm Candice. Thank you for running. And I am very excited to be here tonight and hear what you have to say.
All right, and Lychee is going to do the questioning tonight. Thank you.
So your first question is, what do you think is the biggest challenge facing Bellingham today? And how can a city council member contribute to the solutions for this challenge?
My answer is housing. Probably not a surprise to anyone here. Probably heard that a few times today. But I do think the city council is in a position to really lead in ways that have thus far been missed. And so part of my background is as a tenant organizer, and the city is really behind a lot of other Washington state cities in passing protections that are working, tried and true, and really provide that short-term stability that we really need as we catch up in supply. And so I think that is one area where I'm really prepared to hit the ground running. Then there's, just an endless list where the city can be doing better. We are so slow to approve really any density bonuses for community land trusts. We are not active in pushing the county to release EDI funds to support the nonprofits being able to keep up in building affordable housing. We are slow to implement state mandated changes, which are going to come one way or another, but we should be starting early to maximize those benefits. So that's my priority. If it was up to me, I'd only talk about housing this campaign. That's not quite true, but that's my focus.
Okay. Our second question is, how do you plan to involve residents in the city's decision-making process?
And I appreciate the intentionality of that term, residents, because everyone who lives here deserves to participate in co-governance. And yeah, we have, I think the biggest complaint I hear as I talk to voters is a lack of responsiveness. And that's one commitment I really feel strongly as an organizer, is that those of us closest to a particular problem usually have some pretty core insights into the solutions. And I think there's more we can do in making city advisory boards more accessible to more people. I'll be an advocate for some of those changes. But just personally, I want to be accessible to the public, and I want to be working with the public to create the best policy with the kind of urgency and deep community engagement that these crises require.
Thank you. So our third question is, do you support a local minimum wage that's higher than the state minimum wage? And if so, how much higher?
So in my role with Community First Whatcom, I led the drafting with a lot of amazing community leaders and stakeholders of Bellingham Initiative 2020-301, which will raise the Bellingham minimum wage $2 above the state minimum wage by 2025. You can imagine the conversations about what exactly the local minimum wage should be had a diversity of opinions. And if you look at the MIT living wage calculator, a living wage for a single parent in Bellingham is $36, right? So this is not even within the realm of like what we're talking about is possible, but those are the kind of jobs that we actually need to be pushing towards. But why we landed on that number is that's $4,000 in a working person's pocket. That is the amount that for many of us is the difference between being able to afford to stay in Bellingham and another year considering moving. So, there's always political feasibility questions. It's always difficult to think about how we get from the economy we have to the economy we deserve. And that shift is never without tension. And so we can't expect any minimum wage policy to be widely celebrated from all quarters. But I think we found a number that felt like it was in alignment with our principles and also takes into consideration the realities of the economy we have today.
Thank you. How have you supported or been involved in Riveters Collective or other civic engagement organizations?
So the last 2 years, I've worked as a campaign manager for the Whatcom Democrats, and y'all have been crucial to so many of the victories I've been really honored to be a part of. So I've always valued having a progressive membership organization ready to put in the work. But as a grassroots organizer, I've worked in coalitions that are sometimes quite diverse, sometimes including business folks concerned about childcare or socialists wanting to strengthen unions. It's my kind of deep commitment that in politics we need to be thinking about what is the coalitions we need to build to get what we want. And that means working across political differences, regardless of where maybe I fall on a particular issue. It's about what is the tent we need to build to get our people what they need and deserve in this moment.
All right. As a city council person, how can you support staff in pursuing new and innovative strategies to accelerate progress towards community goals?
That's a great question. I think one of the things I would really love to see is some budget allocations for each council member to have one FTE for legislative aid, because I think the biggest kind of barrier to innovative policy creation and implementation is just a lack of capacity. And so I think one of the best things we can do is invest in actually having a real commitment to a bifurcated government where the council can lead on the urgent priorities we all know. I think also council can be sometimes more direct in asking for what it needs to make decisions and in directing staff in specific ways. I think too often we set ambiguous goals and we get results that we're not happy with. And so I think the more we can make those directives very clear, the better for Bellingham residents.
Right. Thank you. You were so efficient with your time. Do you want to spend the rest of your time talking about housing? No. Do you have any questions for the Riveters Collective?
Yeah, I guess I would love to know more about what your organization is hoping to see come out of this election It feels like a very unique election to me, not just because I'm a candidate, but also because feels like the future of Whatcom County and Bellingham is in a pivotal spot. So I'd love to know just more about your priorities and just be in tune with those.
Suzanne, would you like to speak to that?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for that. Obviously we, at least every other year we publish a platform, and that represents sort of our core values and things that aspirational things and things that we want to work towards in our community. So always that, and that's a wide ranging platform, hits at every issue, kind of every aspect of the community. So it's hard. I imagine it's sort of, it must feel the same as you felt when you're like, what is the, we're asking you, what is the biggest challenge? It's like all of them are the biggest challenge, right? So yeah, I think, always top of mind is housing, always top of mind is criminal justice, specifically the jail, really following the jail recommendations and issues closely, and transportation and how all of these fundamental problems intersect. That's where I think we really are try to find those places where things intersect, and how there might be a solution that is more holistic in nature. Anyone else want to add anything to that?
I feel like we need to meet up with Jace when we're not recording.
Yes, I would love that. And yeah, Suzanne, I think I just really appreciate that framing of, and so often I'm feeling pressure to fit issues into neat sound bites, and yet the work is really to figure out how these pieces come together to an affordable, safe, just Bellingham for all of us. And so that, yeah, I'm trying to stretch my policy analysis too, to make those connections, and really look forward to opportunities to grab coffee with any or all of you to do that. So
but one more comment, sorry if somebody else wants to talk, one more comment on your question though, about what Riveters Collective is looking to get out of the election. I'm not on the board anymore, so I can only speak for myself, but one thing that sometimes frustrates me about electoral politics in Bellingham specifically is it seems like we often don't have a Republican in a general election, and then what we end up doing is electing like a sort of middle of the road, really a candidate who has promised through maybe lack of promises to not shake anything up. And I would love to see things get shaken up. I would love to see us actually elect people who will disrupt the status quo and make space for new things to happen. That's what I would like to see.
yeah, I so appreciate that, Beth. And I think, as an organizer, I'm obviously in it to win things, but I also know how really non-ideologically square voters are. And so I think with good organizing, there's so much more opportunity to connect with people over shared values. And I think so many of our local elections end up being such surface level organizing. And so I think that's one of the things I really hope to try in this campaign is like, what does it mean to go deep in a local election? And so I'm just kind of spitballing here, but I'm very aware of that dynamic and problem, and hope this year we can break out of that pattern.
Okay, did anybody want to add anything else? Great. Okay, thank you so much, Jace. Thank you for your time and good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.